This is Honest Neighbour, a podcast about real estate, Oxford County, and everything in between. I remember one day, I might have told you guys this, but I was driving into Woodstock, and I had to put up an open house sign, and I had a tee-off time. So I was in a hurry, of course, because that's how we operate. Yeah. And I went into town. I went out this County Road 17 because it was in the Bird area or up that way. And I went up there and I put the sign up. And on the way out there, a cop passed me the other way. And I was going 180.
Oh, they can get you that way.
Just wait. And then he flashed his brake lights at me. So I slowed right down and he didn't turn around and come get me. I'm like, oh, thank God. So then I put up my sign. I go back out and I come in 33. And he's going the other way. And this time I'm going 107.
Oh,
and he pulls me over. And I'm like,
and you know it was the same one?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's
He's like,
really
I let
funny.
you go the first time. He knew it was me too.
That's funny.
When I first got my Honda Prelude, I was coming back from Kitchener Waterloo from work, and I was doing. I got to Baden, and I was doing 140 in an 80.
Oh, nowadays they take your car away for that.
And he was like, and then he pulled me over, and then he's like, I got you doing 140 and an 80. And he goes, but then I lost you. And then he goes, but then I got you again doing 115 and an 80.
So that's what you're getting.
And he got me going the other way. That guy let me off.
Oh, he did?
It was the guy about a month later coming down I used to go 7 and 8 to Kitchener, and I was coming down the 16th line by Interkip or whatever that is, and I was fucking just like you flying, and he got me going the other way, and he did do the turnaround.
Yeah.
And he came back, and he got me doing 45 over or something. And he gave me 25 over or something.
That's not
man.
bad.
Yeah.
When you get a little bit of a break. That's
I gave him a big wine story about I'd been working for 14 hours and I was tired.
So I got pulled over. Okay.
Are we sharing these stories?
I can share this story.
Welcome to the Honest Neighbor podcast, where we confess our crimes.
Yes.
So I was at my old office, which is on Dundas Street. There's an alley behind it, right? And there's a parking lot kind of behind the Krabby Joe's parking, Krabby Joe's building. Okay. So I'm leaving the parking lot down the alley, and I'm sending someone a text at the same time. So you kind of forget that that's a road, right?
Oh,
You were driving and texting.
It's definitely.
I just want to clarify, you're driving and texting?
Kind
Back
of,
when
but
it was
not.
okay.
Okay.
But hold on, I will say,
That office moved a while ago. It's back when it was okay.
This was a while ago.
No, it would've been.
This would have been 10 years ago, and I think I actually was stopped about to exit onto the road.
I think you've told me this.
And I got pulled over, and the officer basically said, "Hey, you weren't." I think actually what he said was, "You really weren't texting and while you were moving, but just so you know, this is a road. You can't have your car in drive texting before you turn on to something." Basically, so. And because he even kind of said, I could give you a ticket, but I'm not going to give you a ticket because you weren't actually doing anything unsafe. Great. And I was like, yeah, I'm just heading to open house anyway. So half hour later, I pull up to the open house. I'm about 15 minutes early. There is the same police officer arresting people at that home for a domestic.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And I'm going up to do my open house, and there's now another officer outside the house, and someone's being led outside of that house. And I'm like,
Hey, old buddy.
So I recognize the officer, and I'm like, oh, we meet again. I'm like, am I okay to do an open house here today? He's like, oh yeah, we're taking people out now. He's like, when does your open house start? I'm like, in 10 minutes. He's like, oh yeah, we'll do the paperwork outside.
Oh, that's amazing.
Just make sure you get a long air vocal if you get an offer.
Right?
They won't be
3
out
to
for
6
another
years.
No,
24.
it was, and so it wasn't actually my listing. I think it was a coworker's, and so I just texted to give her the heads up. Just a heads up.
You work with criminals.
One of the sellers is being let out of the house right now. Small world. I encountered the officer half an hour earlier.
That is a bad day.
I think that house sold from that open house. I didn't sell it.
Did you have anything to do with it? No.
No, I think someone came through with their agent or something.
That's the story on how I sold a home with a domestic.
So
Sold a few, yeah. Sold a few.
touch wood, I haven't had a ticket in a while. So let's keep that going. Now, I do drive like a grandparent now.
Same.
I don't know what happened, but at some point in the last probably 4 years, I just all of a sudden don't drive fast anymore.
I'm not a big speedy driver either.
Yeah.
But I did have those stupid moments when I was young.
Everybody
Yes.
We all
does.
did. Yeah.
I
Back from London to Woodstock in 13 and a half minutes.
What?
That kind of stupid stuff.
That's like 200
How is that even
kilometers an hour.
I wasn't the one driving.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. But actually, Kelly knows the person who drove.
Really? We probably shouldn't name them on this podcast.
No, that might be a good idea. Let's protect them.
No, I have not had a speeding ticket probably in like 10 years. I think my son was in like preschool when I got my
I do
last
remember my most terrifying pullover experience.
Okay.
I was on my way back from London. You just jogged that memory. And I had a car. I was DD and I was very responsible. Now, we were minors. Like, I was not of the age to be drinking. But the people in my car were also minors, but also weren't paying attention to the law. But I was being smart. Like, I'm a good person. When I'm DD, I DD, right?
Yeah, same.
So anyway, we were coming back, and it was late. It was well after like last call, and we, I don't know how we got into a bar. Anyway, there's some parts of this story that I don't
remember.
necessarily remember. It was a long time ago. So anyway, we're coming back from London, and it's the middle of the night, and there's this guy in this, like, I think it was like an old Civic hatchback behind me. And I'm driving responsibly, like maybe 100 and an 80, okay? And his headlights are like right in my mirror, like like really bright. So I kind of slowed down and let this guy pass me. And then he starts going like 50 right in front of me in an 80. Like, so I pass him again and I go off at 100 and he's right on my tail again with his high beams. No, it's just some idiot messing around. So this happens 2, maybe 3 times. And I'm like, all right, to hell with this guy. And I bury it. And I'm in my mom and dad's Nissan Maxima, which, by the way, was a pretty fast car at the time. Might have even been the Infiniti because they had both. Anyway, and I fired off probably 170, 180 down the road and left this guy behind me. But then the next thing you know, there's cherries in my window or my mirror, and I'm like, oh my God, what did he see?
Yeah.
Like, what? You never know what they see. So he pulls me over, and I'm like freaking out. I got this car full of idiots.
Yeah.
And they're like, just tell them fuck off and tell like people are, right? Tell them to shut up and like if you guys say anything, you're walking the rest of the way. Like, shut up, okay? Anyway, so I can't find my insurance because it's my parents' car and I'm like shaking like a leaf. I'm like 18 probably, right? Anyway, he pulls me over and he's mad. And he's mad. I can tell he's mad because he doesn't have anything on me. He saw me pull out over a double yellow line, which is only a suggestion. You can pass anywhere as long as it's safe. The line is not against the law, apparently.
Really?
Correct me if I'm wrong, people watching.
Wow.
But I believe that the line is just a suggestion. So he saw me do that, and he's like, well, this guy just made an error in judgment. And then he saw me take off. So he's like, obviously you were speeding, but I didn't get radar on you, so I can't tell how fast you were going. So he charged me with failure to provide insurance. And at that point, you could still bring it to the police station the next day and they throw your ticket out. So I was like, Dad, where's your insurance? I got pulled over last night. And he's like, oh, it's right here. And he pulled it out and gave it to me. And I took it in and got the ticket thrown out.
Nice.
But I was terrified. Terrified. And it turns out one of the people in the car had something in their pocket that they shouldn't have had. And I didn't know that at the time either. Anyway, so that's my story.
That always freaks me out when people do the tail pull up on me.
I was so annoyed with that guy.
I told you what I do about the squirt the windshield wipers. I just give them a little squirt and it drives people bananas because you just see their windshield wipers start going and then half of them get angry and try and pass you.
Right.
Half of them actually realize that they're too close and they back up. But
sometimes I wonder if people tailgate and they don't even realize how close they are.
Some of them do because they do. I most of the time when I find that happens is when I have a massive issue with people that drive in the fast lane, that don't leave the lane. All you got to do is pull out. All you got to do is you pull into the lane, you pass, and then pull back in. And I realize it's a lot of effort to put on that blinker.
Well, you don't have to.
I know.
Depends what car you're driving.
God,
if you drive
like,
a BMW, you don't even need to do that.
Gosh,
it's okay.
It drives me bananas. So that's where I started doing the old squirt. I give them
Like
the squirt.
the rear windshield?
You know what I do is when they pull
so
up close
confused.
behind me, you just turn on your windshield wiper stuff at the front and it shoots over the top of your car because you're going so fast.
Really?
And it sprays their car. Absolutely. It works every time.
I'm going to try this when we leave today.
It'll make
and I'm
people,
ahead of you.
I will tell you, it makes people quite agitated. But
That's
it
really
certainly
funny.
tells them, hey, your nose is in my bottom.
No, I honestly didn't know that. I've never
One
done
way to
it.
put it. Oh man! So while we're complaining about drivers, to me it's the middle lane cruisers that drive me nuts.
Oh, okay.
Like on the 3 lanes,
Yeah.
the middle
Why?
lane is not, because you're not supposed to park in the middle lane. You're supposed to drive in the right lane, and then if someone is slow in front of you, you move to the middle lane and then move back to the right lane. But what we've done is we've taken this beautiful 3-lane highway that we've paid money for, and we've reduced it to a 2-lane highway because everybody just cruises in the middle lane and passes in the left lane,
Yeah.
and the right lane is always open.
Yeah.
So for
People
better or
are
worse,
passing it
I
now.
do
Yeah.
because for better or worse, it's the lane of least resistance.
Yeah.
And I was taught in driver's ed, young drivers, to choose the lane of least resistance. So I'm always in the right lane
Yeah.
passing, and I don't care. Like, because
You are the people
no,
that
it's not me. It's the people in the middle lane that are wrong.
Yeah.
It's
No.
not me that's wrong.
So,
it's those
okay.
people.
I
That are
will
wrong.
admit I passed 9 people yesterday on the 401 while I was in the
I do it all the way to the
slowest
cottage
Oh my
multiple
God.
lane.
times a
didn't-
year, every year.
People started following me from the fast lane. There
Because
was
they
2
know.
trucks,
They're
and
like, "Look at that opening."
That guy is clever. He sees it over there.
No,
So they all
both of
pulled
you
out.
are wrong.
No,
It's
we're not.
dangerous.
We're
It's
not
very
wrong.
dangerous.
It's not dangerous.
You
if you're
should
paying
not pass in
attention.
the right
I
lane.
always pay attention. I'm extra aware when I'm
Not
passing a
passing,
car on
I'm
the
just
right.
going faster than they are.
What?
No.
Okay, defend it, Kelly.
Okay, so I agree with you in theory if there is not a huge volume of traffic. But
Case
the reality is, no, the reality is on a 3-lane highway, you are going to have people driving in the right, in the middle lane out of necessity because you literally couldn't put everyone only driving in the right lane. So yeah, people do park in the middle lane and then you pass on the left. We can all agree, I think, that the left is for passing.
It is.
Right? Okay, so we agree on that. But there, you physically, the amount of traffic on the roads now, you can't only use the 1 lane. It's not possible.
No, you use all 3. And the problem that's happening right now is we only use 2. Because everybody
Right.
gets in the highway and they
Okay.
go right to the middle lane and they sit there.
Or they go in the fast lane and
well,
they
that
stay there.
does happen sometimes too.
But yeah, and then so I don't do it where I'm crazy dangerous weaving in and
Me
out.
either.
I just
You don't have to weave because there's never anybody in the right lane.
If
Just
there's
keep going.
150 meters of clear space in the right lane. And for the first year or two when that phenomena started happening, I don't know, 10 or 20 years ago when you started noticing that
when they
people
had
were
a-
being knobs.
When they had a 3rd lane.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't always 3 lanes between here and Toronto. Right.
So then when that started happening though, you started noticing, wait a second. You know, I didn't really want to go over to the right lane and do that because I was very structured
Yeah.
in my belief.
Yep.
And I was like, no, I won't go do that. But now nobody does anything to the people hugging in the left.
Nope.
And they're actually causing a massive amount of issue with, you know, how congested it is because they get into the passing lane and they then stay slow and they keep everybody. So everybody is kind of a little bit repressed as far as that goes. I don't know. I finally snapped one day.
Do you know
and said,
what?
"You know
And
I'll go to the right.
The
lane."
other issue, I mean, what's happened to me is I've noticed that it's become so common for me to do that I don't even think of it as doing anything wrong anymore to pass on the right because I just
Hate you both.
again when I'm doing it, I like look. I'm very careful to make sure that person isn't starting to move over. Like
Yeah.
do it defensively,
Yeah.
but I'm enraged that we have this issue where like I said, we've taken our multi-billion-dollar 3-lane highway and turned it into a 2-lane highway.
Yeah.
But I was driving once with my sister, and she is not used to a driver who will pass on the right. And the first time I did it, I could see like the white knuckles on the chair, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry. Am I making you uncomfortable? I'm sorry, I don't mean to. Like,
Yeah.
And because she doesn't drive with me very often, Amanda's just like sleeping, reading a book, hanging
Yeah.
out, like it's good. Kids don't care. But my sister in the car the one time.
I don't want people
She
to think that I'm
white-knuckled.
a weaver, though.
No, I'm not a weaver either, man.
Yeah, I
not
just
at all.
hopped in there and I went for like 9 cars. 'Cause
Like
it
I
was
said, it is always open.
Yeah.
Because people will literally
7-Eleven.
merge and then go straight to the middle lane and just stay there. And if that's what we're going to do, fine. But you should also be able to pass on the right. Because that is a lane that is
No.
wide open 99%.
I'm judging both of you.
That's
the
fine.
problem is, though, is that I would hold some umbrage if I was ever charged with
that
passing on
against
the
the
right.
law?
Because, well, I don't know.
Can we get a check on that, our listeners? Let me know if that's against the law.
Because if I'll tell you, I do hold some umbrage with it if they're going to penalize people for doing it in the right lane, because they certainly hold no one accountable for just driving in the fast lane.
Yeah, at 102.
They just, they just stay in that
But I don't
lane.
think that's technically illegal to
It
just
is.
drive in the
It
left
is.
lane.
You can
Is
actually
it?
get charged for staying in the it's a passing lane.
I feel like all of us need to like look into the Ontario driving rules again
Well,
and
for some-
see.
for
Because I don't
some-
think that is. You think it is. I don't think it is.
For some of us, it's been a little longer since we got our driver's licenses.
It's been longer than I would care to admit at this point,
longer
but
for Neil and I.
certainly, not as long as you guys.
You probably didn't even have graduated licensing, Neil.
No, I did
You just
not.
went straight to the Cracker Jack box and drove a car that
Yeah,
day?
well, I took young drivers.
Did you?
My
Yeah.
mom was very adamant.
Yeah, that's good though. Like
Same thing when I babysat. I took the babysitter's course before.
driving is the most
Yeah.
dangerous thing we do every single day, and I think it's to put in a week of work to learn how to do it
Oh,
properly.
absolutely.
I mean, maybe that week was wasted if I'm totally being high risk by passing on the right, but I don't know. I feel like I'm a pretty defensive driver most of the time.
I feel that I cannot believe because I get pretty anxious when I'm driving. I'll lose a lot of fingernails.
Like you get nervous?
Yeah,
While driving?
Well, no, because I'm very aware that a lot of the people around me are not very aware.
Okay, no, that's fair.
And so I legitimately will seek routes that are less congested to make me feel better. Like when I worked in Kitchener and I would work 12-hour shifts and it would be like 9 till 9 or 8 till 8. Some days, if it was bad weather or if it was congested traffic, I will take 7 and 8 all the way to Kitchener and take the back route as opposed to taking the 401. Because in weather, or, if it's snowy or something, I just don't know how people have that much confidence.
See, that's so funny because I would
road.
choose the majors over the back roads when the weather sucks because that's where the plows are. They always go to the 401
I just
first.
don't trust the driving of other
True.
people.
Oh, that's a really good point.
And I usually will have 4-wheel drive and winter tires on.
Yeah.
So it.
I think we're all winter tires users, right?
Yeah.
I'll never go back. Maybe I'll use them.
So Quebec, I think it's mandatory to
It
have
is.
winter
Yeah.
tire. I believe it should be in Ontario as well.
Yeah, except we get less and less snow every year. Really.
We do, and I'm going to say this: I appreciate that winter tires are only probably necessary 3 months of the year.
Yeah, at the most.
I also think in Ontario we have a ton of people driving on the roads that maybe don't actually live here all the time. Like my in-laws, for example, spend a lot of time in Florida over the winter.
Yeah, okay.
So for them, even if they're home for like 2 weeks at Christmas, winter tires are just an absolute waste of their time and their money. But like statistically speaking, they are the safest, best thing that you can possibly do.
Yeah.
So I'm not totally sure. Anyways, I do think they should be mandatory, but
I see the people
gonna-
driving around like street bicycles in the wintertime.
Nice.
With their big fat tires. And if they can have winter tires, then I can too.
Do they have
No,
winter
just kidding.
tires on
They have
those things?
big-
Yeah, oh,
well,
I
I mean,
do.
you know,
Yeah.
fat ones.
Yeah, I like
maybe.
those bikes. I kind of want to buy one of
Yeah,
those.
they're kind of
actually.
neat.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, oh, he's got winners.
Does anybody have a real estate related topic that we could talk about today? I nominate
no.
Kelly.
I don't know.
Kelly.
No, I talked too much last podcast, so you guys
Kelly.
can
Lately, there's
you guys can pick
I
the
have one.
topic.
Okay. Lately, there's been a conversation about this isn't a really exciting one, but about how much conditions cost. Remember we talked about? Did we talk about this
Oh,
on
we
the
did,
podcast
yeah.
already, or
Yeah.
no?
Well, we talked about the value of what we think the value of an unconditional versus a conditional offer
So I
is.
have real world experience that happened to me in the last couple of weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and I will say that in this situation there were two offers,
Mm-hmm.
and they were $5,000 apart, and one was conditional for 3 days, and the other one was not. And the sellers decided to work with the unconditional one because $5,000 was not enough of a bonus to accept a 3-day conditional on inspection period.
See?
So that's $5,000 right
Yep.
there. So that it is worth at least $5,000 to have 3 days worth of conditions.
Absolutely.
So I have a buyer who just got a conditionally accepted offer for 4 business days for finance and inspection, and we were competing as well, and we are aware that we were competing against an unconditional offer, and we still got it. So what we don't know, of course, is the amount of the other
Right.
offer. We have some ideas in our head of what that might look like, but we were obviously very happy that we got our conditional offer accepted,
Yeah.
and the unconditional offer was not. So.
That's not that easy to do to get a
Oh my
conditional
gosh!
offer
No,
accepted.
you know what? The listing agent, I don't know her. She called me to say, "Can you tell me about your buyer?" And I said they're pre-approved, ready to go. This is a little bit about their job and them as a person. And I said, we have everything ready to go, but we would like to do our due diligence. We would like the buyer proof for the house. and which essentially is what the financing is,
Yeah.
right? Like he's approved, but now we want the house approved for that
Right.
buyer. And we said, again, for the inspection, we don't anticipate any major red flags, but we would like to know what we're getting into. As the house is 70 years old, and we expect there's probably a few things.
Almost always.
And so, anyways, and we've done the inspection. We did that yesterday. But we were so happy to get that conditionally accepted offer and have our chance to do the due diligence.
Yeah.
But certainly we know that we had to pay more than the unconditional offer. However much that might be, I don't know. I can't even guess because I don't know.
I find sometimes agents, though, I question. Sometimes I'll see deals where they've taken a cash offer over a conditional offer, and I'll question. I don't say
Yeah,
it
you said
personally to
that.
the agent, but I've seen situations where it just doesn't make sense. I can't believe they would choose the cash offer over the.
So-
in 2017, I had a situation on a house that hadn't gone up. It was a little bungalow on the south end of town, and we hadn't made leaps and bounds in the prices. Remember in 2017, where all of a sudden, though, from January until of June of that year, well, to the first week of June, we had that massive, it was
Run.
the biggest run that we had ever had in the area. And we were right in the middle of it, and prices kept going up and up and up. And I think it ended up being that I brought an offer on a house that was only $230,000, and I was $17,000 higher than the cash offer. And the house belonged to a little old lady. It was vacant.
Yeah.
You told this story.
It was vacant.
Yeah.
She was in an old age home, and we knew that the market wasn't going to stop going up. Or at least the probability of it. So for the agent not to wait 5 days for $17,000 more for someone who that would probably buy that person 6 months in their old age retirement home.
Yeah, tax-free money
Right.
too.
Yeah. And we're talking about, a property that up until 3 months prior had been worth half of what it was worth.
Right.
So it just seemed to me like it was perhaps the agent being lazy and not wanting to come back out for a, home inspection or maintain, check on the building for insurance or something. Just thought, we'll wrap this up. Cash is always better.
I will say, though, that on that, first of all, we don't, unless we're representing the sellers, we don't know the seller's motivation. We also don't know if the market will always continue to go up. So I can see where, in that situation, it's easy in hindsight to say we knew the market was going to go up, but we didn't know when the taps were, Neil predicted when the taps were going to turn off
pretty good at
last
that.
year. But in general, we don't know when we've hit the bottom or the top. So I get why sellers in that situation, maybe they had so much money they didn't need that extra $17,000 and they just wanted to wrap it up.
Afterwards, I found out, though, that there was another reason why. Because it was actually the agent's decision.
Oh,
Right.
really?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's different. That's
So
totally
you never
different.
know what somebody's been stung by either. Like
No.
if they had a long condition and something went
Yep.
sideways on it, they might just say I'm never looking at another conditional offer again.
Yeah.
Like everyone has a story, right? So let's do some hot takes. Since Neil has been so prophetic at predicting the market.
No,
Oh, yeah,
wait
let's
a
go.
So
second.
right, today is May 10th, 2023.
No.
We've seen things have gotten a little hotter in the sub 650K price range in Woodstock and single family detached. What is this? Is this a dead
Hey,
cat
wait a second.
bounce?
So
or
here's
what?
the thing. Is
What's
that
going
I don't
on?
even specialize in single
I know
family.
you don't. I just want to put you on the spot.
Wait, did you say is this a dead cat?
Dead cat bounce? Your husband is a financial planner. You should know what that term means.
I don't think I've ever heard that term.
So that's when if a stock falls.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but a stock falls so precipitously that investors have no choice but to jump in because they think it's such a great deal, which causes this, and then it goes back down again. That's called a dead cat bounce.
I don't think we're in a dead cat bounce.
So you think that the
So the
trajectory
Game
we're
Boy
on-
stock was kind of like a dead boy bounce.
Which
with
one?
GameStop.
Dead Boy.
Or a dead cat bounce or whatever, like GameStop. Because it did.
So GameStop was a meme stock, right?
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
they pump it up on
Absolutely.
Wall Street Bets, Reddit subreddit Wall Street Bets, and they're like buy and hold, and they like artificially pump the value
Yep.
of that stock.
But that wouldn't have bumped. That sort of followed that same. People did end up
so
getting.
first of
stung
all,
on
I'm
it
not a day
again.
trader. And I don't know a
Nor
lot
am
about
I.
this.
Either do I.
But I do think that was more like artificial manipulation rather than a dead
Yeah,
cat
that's a
bounce
different
happens like in
scenario,
a
I think.
natural
Naturally.
way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. I've heard of real estate being described as a dead cat bounce.
Okay.
Because we've
What do you
I've never
think,
heard that
Neil?
term either. So
Really?
Yeah, dead cat.
Okay,
bounce.
interesting.
No,
Yeah, no,
I
I'm learning.
haven't.
I'm actually going to go Wikipedia.
Yeah, let's do that, and maybe there's clarification to it based on what I said, but that's my understanding of it.
Because I admitted to you guys that I do actually donate money to Wikipedia. It is
That's true.
Fantastic little website.
I don't know if I have, but I've certainly considered it.
Yeah, it's. I just find like when I was up at the cottage or anything, I see a bug I don't know, I go look
Oh,
it
yeah,
up on
all the time.
Wikipedia, okay?
What?
Doesn't
Okay, Neil, what's
Siri,
your...
Can't you just take a picture of a bug with Siri
yeah,
and it will tell
with
you
my
what
phone
it is?
will just tell me.
Your phone?
Yeah, iPhone, you just take a
need to
picture.
involve Siri?
No, just take a picture and hit the little info button.
Apple are so cool.
They are
eh?
cool.
Yeah, wow.
These Apple people. they're
Okay,
neat.
the viewers do not understand right now that Neil and Ben are
Some of them probably do.
solidly against Apple. They
against.
despise my phone of choice. Neil, what's your prediction on the market? What's
I
your
mean,
hot
when we
take?
take
Goodness.
files off our phones and it takes Neil and I 3 seconds and you and I 3 days because yours is an iPhone and it
Well-
won't play nicely with others.
Yeah.
I think we're justified. Anyway, Neil, where's the market going?
Whoa, wait a second. Okay, well, we do see the little curl again. And I actually wondered if this was going to happen when we, in March, when, we saw the first little uptick. And then we, though, saw it level out and drop again, right? And
Now,
I
rates were
wondered,
still going up then, right?
right. And I'm wondering if we were going to see, and I had told a couple of my clients this, that we opted early on to sell their property because there was things like a pool and there was no properties in their immediate area. So we actually went against what we had initially planned in November of last year, because in November of last year, I thought the market was going to peak later in the spring, right? Then, I know we're getting the bidding wars on some of the lower priced properties right now, but I still think that we're seeing at the top end, we're still going to see a ton of inventory, and we're going to have that opportunity for people to do the move up.
The upgrade is huge right now.
Absolutely.
I don't think enough people are taking advantage of that
And
opportunity.
and that's where I think that's where most people can. If you can only take a 5 to 7% hit on your house and you can make a 17-point gain on the other end, then it seems certainly advantageous.
And that's 17% at $1 million versus 5% or whatever.
Absolutely.
At 500,000-600,000.
Absolutely.
Right? So, yeah.
But I think what we're going to see is that, and where I'm worried is that we're going to see oversaturation in the market in the over $700,000 range, right? Because there's going to be so many people, the buyers for that property are just not as existent. We don't have the buyers coming in looking for the $1 million inventory, that sort of, even the $800,000 to $900,000.
So your prediction is that we're going to see a glut of listings that are higher end, like
we'll see some
750
higher
plus.
end, and we'll see some of those will maintain them being reasonably priced. But I do think that the bottom end of the market will continually now start to. And I don't think it's going to go fisticuffs up. I don't think it's going to just go astronomical. But I think we're on the move now on the bottom end of the market.
Okay. Kelly?
So I pay a lot of attention to a couple of economists that just look at Canadian housing trends as a whole. And they have said even for the last year, as prices started to decline, buyers should not get very excited, because the reality is the Canadian government plans to bring in between 400,000 and 1 million people every year. Their goal is close to 1 million.
crazy
It's
amount of
typically
people.
closer to 400,000. Some of them are brought in as immigrants, some are brought in as refugees, some are brought in with path to citizenship. So there's different types of people they're trying to bring in different categories. But ultimately, when you try to bring in 400,000 to 1 million people every year into a country that is seeing, I think the number was 260,000 new units created. It was less than even the base number of newcomers to Canada. The reality is that puts pressure either on houses for sale or houses for rent. And realistically, people don't typically arrive just in Woodstock or Oxford County when they arrive to Canada. They arrive in one of the larger centers. They quickly realize they are completely unaffordable, and then they come elsewhere. So I think that for buyers that have been waiting, for the market to correct itself to 2012 prices, it's just never going to happen. Purely from an immigration standpoint. And I think that this year in particular, there's going to continue to be kind of fluctuations. Summer in general is typically pretty quiet. And I think that we'll see some decreases in the prices possibly in the summer.
Oh, interesting.
Just because it's always a little bit quieter, right? That's just people go on vacation, lots of people are looking. But overall, I do not anticipate any significant price decreases purely based on the numbers of people that we are trying to
I agree.
to come
You
into
know,
the
I
country.
really hope that the government of Canada, you said they're trying to find specific types of people. I can't remember the word
Yep.
you used. I don't want to be offensive to anybody, but I really hope that they don't bring in 400,000 realtors. That would be really bad.
It's a shame that when they do bring in 400, and I know there's nothing you can do about it because Canada has 95% of its population within 100 miles
Yeah.
of the border. But, it would be advantageous if there was some means by which when immigrants came to the country where there was, if there was some yearning for them to want to go to different areas other than the great, metropolitan areas.
I think
Yeah.
the secret's out that Toronto is highly unaffordable, though. Like, I don't
Absolutely.
know what the marketing materials look like in India, or for example. So emigrate to Canada. It'll be awesome. Toronto is a great city. Like that's absolutely true. But like you need 2 incomes at like $200K a year to have any kind of fun in Toronto.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know if the word gets out in other countries that Toronto is not all it's cracked up to be. I love Toronto. Don't get me wrong. Don't flame me. But it is like, I don't know why people choose to live there if they have jobs that pay them $50,000 a year. Like you just can't. How can
I
you
won't
do
even
that?
drive there. When we go to the
I
cottage,
hate, I hate driving there.
Pam drives. Pam will drive until the 400, like until we're on the 400, and then I will drive because I just do not trust people.
Same.
Anymore, if I'm going downtown,
Go
I
train.
hop on the GO train.
I
and
told you about the
Aldershot.
GO
It's
train.
the best, man. Especially since the kids are still free.
Yeah.
That's
Like it
awesome.
costs $20 for an adult to get out in and back.
Yep.
And so it's $40 for Amanda and I to get out. Like it's $38 to park a car to go to a Jays game or a Leafs game or something.
Yeah, when
Like,
we went saw Mariah
forget
Carey, which I didn't really want to see, but I went because I love my wife. But when we went saw Mariah Carey,
Confessions with Neil
we
Crusoe.
took the GO train.
I
I
love
love
Mariah
it, except
Carey.
it could be a little raucous after the game /
yeah.
event.
Yeah.
And like when you have a 10-year-old or at the time, he was 10, yeah. Some of the language can be colorful and some of the characters can be colorful, but like you see that
for
on the
sure.
street too. So
Yeah.
like, what's the difference?
That's the thing. It's that part actually doesn't bother me.
No.
I'm fine with the kids seeing, and then sometimes I'm like, this is why we are not excessively drinking, or this is why like these are things you should not do, children. Don't
Yeah.
be like these guys on the GO train. I think in terms of like ultimately, we never know if the market is going to go up or down
circling
and
back.
how interest rates are going to impact things. But the reality is people need a place to live, and we are not building or anticipating or figuring out a way to adequately house people trying to live in Canada. And we see that everywhere.
Well, rent too, right?
Oh, rent's
what you said,
atrocious.
you have to take that into account, even though it's not something we specialize in. We specialize in the sale of homes. Rent is going to have a massive, like how people can afford. Like, does it not? When you work with younger clients, does it not baffle you that they're spent the amount of money when you compare it to your own mortgage or anything like that?
Absolutely.
I had clients that were renting a 2-bedroom townhouse and they were paying $2,400 a month
Wow, eh?
for that.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if there were any extenuating circumstances or if that's simply market rent. Because to me, that seems crazy. And like at some point, the only thing that's going to break is like we're in an affordability crisis. Like we can't be spending 70% or 80% of our income on the
rent.
roof over our head.
Yeah.
Whether you buy or rent, you still have other expenses. You have to put food in the fridge. You have to keep the lights on. Everybody has to have a cell phone, which is, by the way, is $100 a month, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Thanks, government of Canada. Like it.
Yeah.
I don't know. We run into a brick wall of affordability. How can we go? How can we keep going?
How can Shaw and Rogers have gotten to be able to merge?
Because our government hates competition unless it's realtors.
On the topic of rent, we are landlords. We have seen the average price of rent increase probably 50% from when we first became landlords, I think in about 2018. No, we were landlords before that, but the one I'm thinking of in particular was 2018. The reality for some of the new stuff we've done in the last couple of years is our build costs have also increased so exponentially that was a factor into our increased rent costs for our tenants. But at some point, it will either be not feasible for us to continue to either like build or develop anything because that cost, it's super cost prohibitive. But then it's also, we can't possibly build it at a price at which we could rent it out that people can afford to pay. So that's going to continue to be a big problem too, which I do think I'm going to give props to the Woodstock and Oxford County councils. They are finally starting to allow significantly more intensification and so we built 2 fourplexes on Brock Street we started, I think, about 2017. We actually wanted to build a little bit more intense than that, and it was declined. I'm confident if we were trying to ask to do any more intensification now, it would be approved.
Do you think?
Oh, yes, because the reality is the municipal councils have said we have a significant affordability crisis. There's an extreme lack of rentals. I mean, we have gone from having 1 or 2 applicants per rental unit available to sometimes 20 applicants per rental unit available.
People put their applications on Kijiji. Well, they're just looking for on Kijiji, looking for. Yeah. But like places like British Columbia are talking about municipally putting in I'm sure it's a far ways away, but it's been floated by the premier about putting in a quota where municipalities won't get their tax dollars until they prove that each year they build a certain amount of houses.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's okay. Talk about unintended consequences, which I believe was a conversation a few weeks ago.
It was actually the title of an episode.
Right. I understand the purpose of that, but there will be some unintended consequences there. There's land that you can't possibly build on. Floodplain, farmland. Well, farmland to a certain extent. There's different.
So this is not Alberta.
Right. Like it's just not always feasible to build more.
So I do think we run into there's got to be something that breaks. Whether do we keep seeing wages grow, or does actually real estate get less expensive? Do rates drop? I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
But there is. I don't already, like you said, I already don't know how people afford their lives.
Well, and that's the thing. So when we first started in real estate, I realize I'm a few years ahead of you, but when we first started, nowhere near my amount of clients had a secondary investment property. People have investment properties now at a younger age than they ever considered before. You'll see 25-year-olds with 6 houses or
do you think that's because
something.
It was popularized by the HGTV
I think
phenomenon?
I think there was some of that to do with it. I think some people looked at it as easy money and stuff, and I think some people are really not suited to be landlords either. Though.
Yeah.
So one of the big problems is and so you have these people that have bought all these houses, and now the market has scrunched, but they still got to pay the mortgage. So now they're looking to transfer their costs over to the tenants.
Yeah, because otherwise they just sell, right?
Because right now, even on my investment property, I probably could get about $200 to $250 more a month, maybe because of the school location, because it's near Algonquin or something. But I have really good tenants, right? We just got them; they're great tenants. So you know what? I'd rather just break even and not make any cash than worry about that sort of stuff.
Right, but it shouldn't be up to the landlord to take a quote unquote loss. Landlord should be. I'm going to sound like a capitalist, but the landlord should be entitled to the value of that property. They should be able to get what it's worth. We shouldn't have to be philanthropic with our rents. I do the same thing. All my units are rented well below market rate. Yeah. Partially that's because the law protects the tenants if they've been in there a long period of time, but also it I just feel like it's the right thing to do to not just pin the tenant with the most ridiculous rent payment that I possibly could charge, right? It just doesn't seem right. So anyway, but why is it up to us? Why is it up to landlords to do that?
Well, that's my tenant base, $2,500 for a house, though, right?
Entire house. Yeah.
Wow.
It's still a lot of money, though, man.
It really is.
It might be a good deal in the market, but it's still a lot of money.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
My mortgage is less than half of that. Okay, and I won't have a mortgage in November, so it's just holy crow.
I don't know the solution there, though, because the landlord, you have to make money as a landlord or you wouldn't possibly do it. There is a huge risk. There is a huge amount of sacrifice required to get the initial down payment to purchase a second property. And then, of course, your insurance, your taxes, all your maintenance costs.
Surprise costs. I'm putting in a water heater today, $1,500.
Right? Oh, my gosh. All the time. We have just random money out the door. So the landlord, like you say, should be able to make money. But also the tenant should have some ability to have not spend 80% of their income on rent.
It's
I don't
just
know
too
where
expensive.
Although I do think, though, that part of it, you're right. I do think that they should be able to make money, but I think there's a mindset that the money has to come fast, right?
I disagree.
The people that when my old investors, I sold a fourplex last year, and she'd had it for 30 years.
Yeah.
And she bought it when she was 45 or 50 as a retirement staple,
Cool.
and she was getting up to 90 or something like that, and she was liquidating it. But the value that she's made on that property has all happened in the last 10 years. It was so marginal, the increases, that back in the day when people bought investment property, they bought it because it would take you 10 or 12 years to clear the money on that sort of property.
Yeah.
You don't make that kind of money. Like, although I charged $2,500 for mine, the house is worth $700,000. It's not a $400,000 investment property.
Yeah.
So it'll take
So your
longer.
percentage, your return is low.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
it's a long game, yeah.
And it's a long game. But some of these people, and I think some of it has to do with the posturing of their, people saying, "Oh, I'm an investor real estate or an investor mortgage broker or whatever, and you should do this, this, this." Like I talk to some of my clients to be like, "Oh, so I've had this for a few years. Should we be selling this property?" I'm like, if you're going to sell an investment property and then buy another one,
It doesn't make sense.
you're taking a massive step back. When I sell a client a property, I shouldn't be reselling it for them unless there's an issue with the property. It should be their kids selling it or something down
I can
the road.
see if
You know
you
what I
want
mean?
to. Yeah, I can see if you want to do that and shift gears. Like you bought a triplex and you want to buy like a 14-unit building.
Absolutely.
And you just can't do it unless you liquidate that property because most people don't have the means to make those down payments. You start getting into, as you would know, like a larger commercial mortgage, you need like 50% down on that. Like, who's got that kind of money without selling the first asset?
Yep.
But if you're just going to sell a triplex to buy a fourplex or something like that,
Well, they
it
just
doesn't make
flop
any
out
sense.
single-family homes. Oh, I made this much
Yeah,
money
true.
on it.
Yeah.
But then you paid the agent, you paid whatever, you're paying land
Capital
transfer
gains.
tax, and now you're buying another property
Yeah.
as an investment, and you think you flipped it and you made all that money, but it all went out the back end. So I don't understand always sometimes that.
There's the long investing game,
Yeah.
which is what I do, buy and hold. I let my kids sell those properties.
Same.
Or the quick buck,
Yeah.
right? And I guess maybe those people are getting confused between
A
the
little
two.
bit. It's like a mishmash. It's like
Cool.
the best of both worlds.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, that was fun. That was a good episode. I think we should wrap it up right there because we
I
did
agree.
speeding tickets, driving in the right lane, and then we talked about real estate, and it's a good time to cut it.
All right.
I
And
did
Neil's
too,
light
but-
shut down, so we got to figure out.
Yeah, I
what's
saw
up with
that too, and
but
I just felt like maybe Kelly didn't talk enough.
Kelly can come into the next episode more.
Kelly can. She's being a little shy.
Goodbye,
I'm
everybody.
good for today. Bye.
Thanks for watching.